Hey, what's up guys? So continuing on with our X570 coverage here at Computex, seeing as AMD did drop the 12-core bombshell on us at the beginning of the week. Still waiting for that 16-core, although it does turn out that the leaks were true from ASUS in terms of this X570 ROG impact board. It is here, and that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. If you are looking to do a mini ITX X570 build with the 12-core and above Ryzen CPUs, this is a board that you'll definitely want to keep an eye on. But a big thanks to MSI for making our Computex trip possible this year. You can check out their X570 motherboard lineup for gamers and creators in the link in the description. Okay, so being a mini ITX fanatic personally, this is a motherboard I absolutely could not wait to check out. So this is the ASUS X570 Crosshair VIII Impact, and for those who aren't familiar with the ROG Impact series, the last time that we saw an Impact board was on the Z170 chipset for the Maximus series, and that thing was absolutely overkill. So to have this for the AMD X570 chipset is pretty awesome. Now one thing that is a bit of a shame here is that it is mini DTX, not mini ITX, so this motherboard won't fit in cases like the Ghost S1, the Dan A4, or other small form factor cases that require a PCIe riser cable for the GPU and otherwise don't have that additional clearance. This board will be fine for cases like the NK71, the Streetcom DA2, and the NZXT H200, seeing as the extra length on the PCB is otherwise occupied by the graphics card anyway. Not to worry though, as ASUS have utilized pretty much every square millimeter of PCB surface area that they can here. The PCB that you see hanging off the motherboard here is their SODIMM.2 slot, which, as the name suggests, connects via a SODIMM slot. We have seen this on some other ROG boards previously. In this case, it allows you to connect two M.2 drives. Now that little chunk underneath the PCB that extends from the PCIe 4.0 x16 slot includes a premium onboard audio circuit, right-angled headers for front USB ports, a few 4-pin headers for fans, and also a couple of switches, but I can't see the specifics of what they actually do. The specifics of the VRM configuration I can't confirm just yet as well, but assuming that the array of chokes near the I/O shroud are entirely for the CPU, and that one power stage is assigned for each choke, that would be the best case scenario. We should be looking at 8 phases here for the CPU, and hopefully not a doubled 4 phase that ASUS has done previously. I tried to get a better look at the PWM controller being used here, but it's a rebranded one by ASUS, so unfortunately no spec sheet for this one. The VRM does get active cooling via two 40mm fans underneath the I/O shroud, and thankfully they just sit behind the mesh, and from what we can see here they are getting a proper fin stack for the VRM heatsink, so hopefully the 12-core 3900X and above will run overclocked just fine. In terms of the location of the chipset for this board, I did have conflicting answers from two different ASUS reps, but both of them sort of did point towards the area with the bottom fan underneath the I/O shroud. It does support up to 64GB of memory, and for rear I/O it's pretty stacked. We've got Wi-Fi 6 on board, Gigabit Ethernet, clear CMOS, and BIOS flashback buttons, and we also have a whopping total of 8 USB ports. One interesting concern here is the fact that it's only running a single 8-pin power connector for the CPU. You'll see that positioned towards the top right for easier access. I'm betting it will be fine for even the higher core count parts, but only time will tell. Now there is also a Strix X570i board that I know a lot of you will be keen on, although ASUS basically hid this one in the shadows. I can't really comment on this one because I just honestly can't see much, although we can expect a bit of a cut down from the Crosshair VIII Impact, and there doesn't seem to be any active cooling for this one on the VRM or the chipset. You do get two M.2 drives though, which look like they're going to be mounted above the chipset, and that's pretty much all that we can see from here. The Strix X570i will likely release at the same time as the new Ryzen CPUs, which will be early July, but I am told that the Impact 8 will release about a month later. So as you guys can tell, I'm pretty excited to throw a 12-core or even a 16-core Ryzen CPU if it does release soon into that Impact board and then into an ITX case. The thought of having that much CPU power in a tiny footprint is simply insane, and I can't wait to tackle the cooling problems that come along with that. They did also have the X570 Hero and Formula boards on display, which are their highest end X570 boards that ASUS will offer. Both of these boards, as we've seen with a ton of ATX boards, will feature an onboard fan for the higher power chipset. The X570 Formula also includes an integrated water block for cooling the VRMs, so if you are planning on doing an X570 custom loop, this might be one to consider. Just expect to pay a pretty penny. So that pretty much concludes our look at some of the X570 motherboards from ASUS, specifically that Crosshair VIII Impact, which is probably the most interesting X570 motherboard on the show floor in my opinion. As always guys, stay tuned for continued Computex coverage in the following days. A huge thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.